Hello. Welcome to today's live. We're going to be discussing language, specifically values-based vocabulary. So I'm going to give a few moments for people to be notified and to come online. And as that happens, hello. As you're coming in, please feel free to let me know where you're signing in from. It's always fun to see where everybody is based. Hello. So again, we're going to be talking today specifically around language and about values-based vocabulary. So again, usually when I start these, I give about 4 or 5 minutes for people to be notified and to be able to sign on and join us. Hello from New York. Thank you very much. Welcome. I'm out here in Los Angeles, Miami, pandemonium center of the world. Yes. I lived in Miami for 12 years, so I know exactly how Miami handles things. So welcome. We have New York, we have Miami. Hello, Jesper. Yes, let me know where you're signing in from as you're logging in. Actually, let me pin a quick comment while everybody's doing that. Today, that's where, oh, hey, wait, what's your first name? I just say CC the wine lady, but I don't see your full first name. I love it when people connect from the past. How fun. Hello from Denmark. Wow. Amazing. Oh my gosh. Hey, Chanel. What a small world. Oh, I love the interwebs. Oh, this is so fun. So I'm actually really excited about, I'm sure. I mean, I'll have to go and look at your picture from bigger because right now your photo is itty bitty, so I can't actually see your face. But yeah, let's definitely reconnect after this because I love when, life does this and serves you people that you haven't seen in ages. I always think that that's amazing. Hello. So we're going to get started probably right at 11:35 my time. So in about 3 more minutes. So as you're coming on, just let me know where you're coming in from. Let's see. So today, again, we're talking about language, specifically values-based. Oops, it's hard to type on this thing while it's on a stand. Vocabulary. Boom. Post. Ding. Let's pin this. Boom. All right. So again, we're going to be started right in about a couple of minutes. So while people are coming on and being notified, and as you're telling me where you're coming in from, which so far we have Denmark, New York, and Miami, which is always really cool. Why I've been doing these lives, especially during the pandemic and with everything that's been shifting in our day-to-day life, is as a business owner for the last 14 years, there's been a lot of things that I've learned, and especially in the last 3.5 years as I've been really focusing on aligned marketing and working with purpose-driven brands, there's a lot of tiny shifts that I have brought into my business and in my 14 years of being in business have really helped me call in the type of people and the clients that I want, as well as do the work that I love to do, that I feel passionate about, and that invites people to be passionate with me as well. So hello, if you're just signing in, let me know where you're coming in from. We'll be starting in about a minute. We're going to be talking again about language, specifically about values-based vocabulary. So you've been in business since year 6. I wish I was that young. No, so I've been in business since I was 20 years old. So it's been quite the journey, and it's something that has offered me always a lot of freedom. I've always been someone who likes to control my day and my time and have control, but also have space to do the things that matter to me. Being French Tunisian, I was definitely brought up with this idea of not being fully work being work, and then relationships and experiences and community really being the focus of things. So as a young adult, that's definitely something I leaned into heavy, and that's something that since I've been in business for so long, I really want everybody to be able to have, yes, I'm 34 years old if you did the math. I really want everybody to have the opportunity to do that for themselves as well. We live in such a society that is ruled by productivity, and productivity not for ourselves and not growth for ourselves, but for growth into corporations. So in being in business for myself, I have been able to I've been able to take control back and choose where I'm putting my energy, choose what I'm putting out into the world, and do so in a way that works for me. And that's what I really hope to bring to all of you. I'm helping with my mom's business. I'm taking over as DO. Oh, amazing. Hey, Tia. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Nadia. Hello, hello. Oh, I'm so glad we waited. So we're about to dive in. We're talking specifically today about language and values-based vocabulary. And I see a lot of familiar faces popping up. So they all know that I am a stickler. Not a stickler, because I don't like that language. But I am hyper aware. Hashtag nervous. Oh, we'll talk about it. There is no reason to be nervous. All of it, whenever it comes to business, everything everything in life, I am very much a advocate for approaching as an experiment. There is this ideology of perfection that is incredibly unattainable and frankly overwhelming and debilitating that I don't subscribe to. So part of a lot of the language that I use, especially when I'm consulting and especially when I'm doing marketing, is this idea of approaching everything with a sense of play and with a sense of curiosity. Because at the end of the day, like, nothing is set in stone. You're always going to be able to shift things around. So nervous is great. Excited is fantastic. And as Nadia Payan, who's on here, likes to say, nerve-sided is a really great place to be. So again, just to kind of recap why I've been doing these lives, I think that there's a lot of little things that all of us, not just as business owners, but also as, people can do to make little shifts that make a really big difference over time. So part of these educationals and these free educations that I've been offering on a week-to-week basis is to provide little bits of, let's say, food for thought, or just little bits of tips that will help propel those 2mm shifts within your own business and within your own scope. So there's a quote that I would like to bring forward before we dive into it. And it's a quote from a psychotherapist, I want to say, named Cosolino. And the quote says, "It's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the nurtured." And I really love this quote. I'm actually going to read it again. It's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the nurtured. So we've had this ideology that's been kind of ingrained in us that we have to beat out competition, that we have to be the fittest, that we have to be the strongest, the best, the whatever, in order to be successful in the life that we want to live and in the things that we're pursuing. And yeah, Sarah says, "Oh, damn, that's so good." Yeah, it's such a great quote. And Nadia says, "And for me, it's not survival at all." Yeah, we'll talk about that. Chanel says, "What are we, sharks?" I'm going to read the comments out loud because when I post this to IGTV, it doesn't save the comments. So it just looks like I'm having, conversations with the voices in my head, which also happens. And also for this context, I'm going to read the comments out loud. So Nadia says, "For me, it's not about survival at all." And I agree with that. I like to think more about thriving rather than surviving because we deserve more than just basic survival. Regardless, I still really like that quote because, again, it shifts the ideology from having to be the fittest to just having to nurture ourselves and letting that be not just what brings out survival, but what brings out thriving as well. So I'd like to not start off because we've already been chilling together for 5 minutes, but I'd like to invite you to do a little exercise with me. And you can close your eyes. I can't see you, so do what feels right for you. But what we're going to do is I really want to highlight the difference in what language does to you as a human. And if you've done some sort of therapy or some sort of self-work, like you've probably already done an exercise like this, regardless, we're going to go ahead and play just a little bit. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit up. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep breath. First of all, I'll take it with you. And what I want you to do is I want you to imagine and bring up this time in your life. This is going to might be a little bit uncomfortable, where you had a deadline that you weren't ready for, where you might have felt the pressure to do something at a speed or a cadence that you might not have the tools or the ability to complete. So I just want you to sit in this discomfort. We're not going to stay here for long, I promise. So bring up this point in your life where you had this pressure to deliver something and you were running up against time. And I want you to let me rephrase. I want you to feel in your body where that pressure lives. For me, it tends to be in the chest. I'll get shallow breath. I'll tend to bring my shoulders in. And when I'm in this state, the words that come up tend to be, well, first let me ask you. I want you to bring up the words that come up for you. For me, it tends to be judgment about myself for not managing my time properly. There's also things that come up for me about around blaming either the client or the boss for unreasonable demands, and then circling usually back to shame and judgment about me not setting proper boundaries or setting proper expectations. And as you're breathing into this pressure and into this deadline and into this past experience, I want you to just call forward, how do you feel? Do you feel tight or do you feel expansive? Do you feel small or do you feel big? Let's take another breath into it. Go ahead and open your eyes if they were closed and let me know in the comments what you're feeling and which of those questions, so what emotions come up for you when you're bringing forward this experience. Where in your body is it living? So again, for me, like when those types, and we're going to do a different exercise just to clear that out. So like, you don't have to stay there, don't worry. So for me, again, like I know that my body tends to constrict. I tend to like slouch, especially like if I'm working on the deadline, like I'm just like head down, like I'm not like, I don't know, I'm usually not in a good body position, and I just like nothing else matters. Like I'll tunnel vision just to get this deadline out and get it done. Like it's not in my body, it's not a nurturing space. It's definitely a space of just get it done, get it over with. Like it's frantic. It's like not an easy energy. So from here, go ahead and shake that off, because I know like that's not a fun thing to be in. And I do invite you to actually like physically shake it off to get it out of your system. So now what I want you to do, and I always love these exercises, especially when we flip it around to the positive side. So now that what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and take another deep breath. You can close your eyes for this one as well. And what I want you to bring up this time around is I want you to bring up a time where you felt excited, where you felt inspired, in flow, creative, where you realized that you had either something to give that could change the lives of a lot of people, or even just when you were doing something that you loved. Or I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where there's information that comes to you and you just want to learn everything you can about it. So I want you to bring up that experience into your body. And I want you to take notice of how that exists when you're in that space in your body. So depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing, my body tends to be either way tends to be a little bit more open when I'm in this space. I can tell you that my breath definitely goes a lot further down than when I'm in that anxious space. So when I'm in the anxious space, my breath usually ends here. But then I'm usually breathing with my entire body. And my entire body, especially if I'm in creative flow and I'm in creation, it's not just my lungs that are breathing. My body tends to move with the cadence of that breath. And then I want you to bring up the words that come up for you when you're in this space, when you're in this inspired flow space. So for me, there's usually a lot of imagination. There's a lot of like fantastical daydreaming. There's excitement. There's maybe a little nervousness that's attached to the excitement. And again, I don't know if Nadia's still on here, but Nadia has this phrase called nerve-sided that I really enjoy, because it's a mix of excited and also nervous, and it's a space that exists as both. And then I want you to really lean into it and to let me know, like, how do you feel? Do you feel tight and constricted when you're bringing up this, point in time when you're inspired? Or do you feel expansive? Do you feel like you can reach for things and bring things forward that are bigger than you might have in the past? Is it tight or is it expansive? Go ahead and take another deep breath and really ground in this. And if your eyes are closed, I welcome you to open them back up. And feel free to, in the chat, let me know if there's any specific places in your body where that landed that was interesting. Let me know if there's specific words that came up that surprised you, or even if you just want to share, I'm always open to listening. I know I was sharing while we were doing that little exercise. But the point of this exercise is really to show you how language and how experiences will bring up certain words and certain vocabulary in us. And both of those experiences will create action. Right? So usually when we talk and we bring this into the world of marketing, we have to do marketing as a business because we want people to take action to either say yes or no to our offering. So both of these experiences will create action. One will create action from a point of distress, of constriction, of just having to get things done. And the other will create action from a point of wanting expansion, from a point of wanting and feeling excited and wanting growth. So both will create action. The question is, which one, as a business owner or as somebody that has offerings to give to the people around you, how do you want to make people feel? Do you want to make people feel like they have to do this thing and it has to get done? Or do you want them to feel inspired and excited and empowered to taking action and to working with you on your offering, or to say yes or no to your offering? So that really is the basis. And there's another thing that I want to add as well, but that really is part of the anchor of why language is incredibly important when it comes to marketing, is that there's people on the other side of your screen that are impacted by the words and the choices and the tactics and the schemes that you use in your marketing. And it's important. And there's even, I'm sure this is an experiment that most of you are familiar with, but there's an experiment that actually is done also in elementary schools now, where there's two plants, and they have kids speak negative language to one plant and positive language to the other. So they'll tell one plant that they're useless, that they're, whatever insult you want to, say to that plant. And the other plant, they'll be nurturing. They'll tell them how much they love the plant, how well it's growing, how beautiful it is, how much they appreciate the presence. And same plant, same growing conditions, except for the language. So there's been scientific studies that have tied how language impacts how we grow and how we, to go back to the original quote, how we survive in this world. So again, the Kosalina quote from earlier was, it's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the nurtured. So what I want to bring forward as far as the shift for you to kind of sit on and to think about for this week is, how do you shift your language so that you can empower the person on the other screen to grow and expand and thrive and be nurtured, and still have them say either yes or no to your offering if it's a right fit for them. So I always get really, not frustrated, but it always kind of bugs me when I feel like whenever I hear other marketers, it's one of two things. One is that they either only focus on tactics and they don't pay any attention to the soul, or they only focus on soul and they don't really tie it together so that it makes sense in a practical way. So I've been told that I'm very good at taking these big concepts and making them easy, so we're going to do that right now. What I want you to do is, when it comes to your marketing language, and actually, you know what, I just had an idea that I will post about, but I've been doing these alignment free workshops on Zoom. I think I'm going to do a copywriting alignment one, because this just sounds like a very easy way for me to be of service and to actually look at your copy and help you shift it on a very hands-on way. Which is actually, I love it when I get great ideas like this. But I guess you'll have to just stay tuned, or if you're not on my email list, make sure you're on that, because they'll probably get the information for signups for that first. But when it comes to the language that you're going to use for your marketing, I mean, you can look at even just the very simple things that might not be client facing, but are on the back end. So some typical vocabulary that's used in marketing are things like target audience. Do you want to be a target? If you were on the other side of that, like, is that, or do you want to be an ideal client? How does that language sit differently? How does it feel different between target audience and ideal client? I can tell you that I personally like ideal client better than I do target audience. I don't want to target anybody. I'm not a predator. I have cool things that would work and that would serve a lot of ideal clients. I don't need to target them. I can speak to them. I can market to them. I can have conversations with them. I don't need to target them. Ideal. Yeah, ideal fits better. Or at least it feels better to me. And even like there's other things like, let's see, there's things in marketing also called like email hooks. So it's traditionally, those are things where you do a free offer to hook somebody into your email list. But even that sounds predatory, rather than just, a free like offer in exchange for your email. There's a better language around that, and I had already thought about it, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Yeah. And serve also resonates. Thank you for that feedback. Yes. It's being in service of, rather than like shoving content down people's throats. And even like there's, it's all about thinking. Like when it comes to bringing alignment, I prefer nourish sequence. Oh, Nadia, that's so good. Nadia. Yes, I don't like the energy of hooks. Yes, thank you. Nadia, like I'm just still stuck on this nourish sequence. That sounds delightful. Thank you for that. So it's when we're creating, it's not just the front-facing vocabulary that's important. It's also when we're creating our marketing strategy. It's shifting the language around that so that you know within yourself that there is values infused in it. And I do think that there are more and more people, which I'm so happy about, because I think it's about time, that are starting to shift the language around it, that we're gonna see it much more. Nadia is one of those people who has, some of the best marketing that I've seen and that I adore. So it's one of those things that as we start to infuse more of our values, and if you've missed, over the last few weeks, we've talked about values. We've talked about what aligned marketing is. So if you've missed those, I really invite you to go back and check those out, because there's a lot of free information that I'm giving on these lives. that's available to you and accessible to you. You just need to go check out the IG Live and check it out. So when we're talking about vocabulary, it's not just about being, the front client facing. It's also about how we're setting it up. So it takes things from email hooks to, like Nadia said, the nourishment sequence. It takes things from, instead of tricking people into your email campaigns, it takes them from that to having a consensual conversation about what you have to offer them and what they might be interested in. So kind of to circle all this back to, I really want to highlight, I know somebody, I think it was Chanel, was saying that she was nervous about, I don't know exactly what she was nervous about. I think it might have been helping her mom's company. But there's always this sense, at least for me, so I will speak for myself, I won't speak for you. Whenever it comes to my awareness that I have some sort of, not negative self-talk, I mean, it could be negative self-talk, but it could also be language that's been ingrained in us that is harmful. There's, the first reaction can definitely be one that's of shame and judgment of self. So I just want to state that I think that's just a normal part of the process, and also having that awareness that gives you a little bit more space to make different choices. So for years, people have been using really predatory language around marketing. So if you have been somebody in the past, or if you are someone currently that is doing that, no judgment. If it's now that it's been brought to your awareness, if that's not aligned with your values, I invite you to dig deeper. And I invite you to start questioning those language that's being used and see if there might be terminology, or have these conversations. I have conversations with Nadia pretty often about hey, I don't like this language. Do you have something else? And in this in community, what we can do is we can really start to shift and bring forward and really raise the vibration I'm for. I know not everybody is in spiritual woo world, so maybe not the vibration, raise the standard of what we want to bring forward through our marketing. So, and that also is to say, if you're in friendship relationship with me, you know that I am probably one of the first people to point out when there's little bits of negative self-talk. I'm a very big believer, and there's been studies done about how negative self-talk really impacts your growth, your learning ability, it just impacts everything. And it's actually, I was in a meeting yesterday and with this brilliant man, super accomplished, who's building something for himself now. And even when he was telling me about his amazing idea, one of the things that came out of his mouth is everybody's doing this though. And it's one of those things that and I excuse myself. I'm listen, I'm sorry if this isn't okay, but I just want to bring forward that everybody might be doing this, and also nobody is going to do it like you. So there's, in the negative self-talk, so Della, there's actually, there's been, since there's been a lot of information about racism that has come up, there's also been a lot of really interesting research that's come forward. There was one in particular where they did a study with a group, I believe, of third graders, where they just told third graders if you have blue eyes, you're actually smarter than these other people, than the other kids. And the kids with blue eyes automatically tested better than the kids with other colored eyes. And then the next day they switched it and the results switched with it. So there's been a lot of really fascinating studies about how language is really pervasive in our expansion and in our learning and in our being. There's also a really cool study that I mentioned earlier, Della, about the plants, two different plants. If you speak negatively to one plant, then positively to the other plant, the one plant that has positive words at it will thrive while the other one will wither. So that's there's science is proving that the language that we're using matters. So if we're ever in conversation, it's something that I catch myself doing it all the time. Is there an IG Live article you have about connecting again with my public through email database to invite them as a community? I haven't emailed them and I don't want to push them. I do have thoughts on that. I actually just did it with an email list that I hadn't emailed, and I can definitely give you feedback. I haven't talked about it yet. But thank you for bringing that forward, and I will definitely, we can discuss it off this live, and also I will discuss it publicly if that's something that people want to discuss. So Tia says the clip is from Jane Elliott. Nah, nah is me. That's what Tia calls me. It's from Jane Elliott, the clip. Hey, Nils. So language really does matter, and I lost my train of thought. We were talking about the study, we were talking about the language, the negative self-talk. That's where I was. So I didn't ask. I just told him, like, listen, this might not be welcome, but I just want to really ground in the fact that everybody could be doing exactly what you're doing, and no one's going to do it the way that you do. I was a photographer for a really long time in one of the most saturated markets in the world. Oh, I absolutely will, Della. All of these are, by the way, if you ever miss any of them, I've been doing these for a few weeks every week. They're all saved to my IGTV except for one that glitched and that's lost to the ether. So absolutely do feel free. It will be on my IGTV later today. Thank you. So I was a photographer in one of the most saturated markets, which was Miami. And I think 3 years after I moved from Miami, I was still a #1 photographer in Miami. And it was all, to me, it all came from this idea. And also there was always the community around me, but I was brought up into that community of collaboration and sharing. In the photography world, there are always going to be people who have the scarcity mindset and that don't want to share information and that don't want to help newcomers evolve. I was really blessed to have mentors that I sought out and that did things like gave me all of their vendors and helped me with my pricing, not just because it would benefit me, but because in me having a standard of my pricing, it benefited them because I wasn't hurting the industry. And in that community, it really is where I learned that I could, as a photographer, I could teach submitting you everything that I know. I could give them my camera, I could give them my gear, I could give them my models, my setup, my lighting, and nobody would shoot the way that I do. There is value in your life experiences that you put a perspective and a spin to things that other people don't have. So to me, when I hear negative self-talk, to me that's programming. And when I see scarcity mindset show up in marketing, and let me finish that. When I see scarcity mindset show up in marketing, that to me is a signal that whoever's putting it out, there's a part of them that might not believe that what they're putting out is worthy. And when I talk about scarcity mindset, it's this. It's the idea that there's not enough for everybody. It's this idea that if I get something, that means somebody else doesn't get it. It's this idea that there's, just flat out that there's not enough to go around, and that's not an ideology that I subscribe to. And it's not to say that there haven't been times in my life that I have had everything, because there's definitely been there's been more times in my life where I didn't have things than when I did have things. And also, I am 100% a positive and gracious and grateful, not gracious, I am gracious too, but I'm 100% a grateful person where I am more focused on the things that I do have than the things that I don't. So, hey, Erica. So when I see scarcity language, to me, again, that's somebody that has some sort of scarcity mindset and that is pushing that forward. And again, it's not a judgment. It's not any of those things. It's part of programming. It's part of how we were brought up in this society. It's part of what we were programmed to. Even as kids, we see, our parent, our mom, try on clothes and be like, oh, I don't look good in this. It's stuff that is so ingrained that it takes a level of awareness. And again, that's why I've been doing these things for free. I really want people to be aware of what they're putting out, and I want them to feel empowered to make different choices. So in the language, one part of scarcity marketing that I really don't like is, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but you'll go to an offer that you're excited about. It happened to me recently where there was this really cool webinar by someone that I really respect. And I go to the page and it's like, oh, just in time, in 2 minutes, there's this training video, join us. It was 2:00 in the morning. you know full well that is not a live training call. Why are you going to put this false deadline of, oh, this is going to be in 2 minutes? I'm here now. I'd like to see the video. Like, why? Like, I don't, like, that to me is scarcity marketing. It's creating these false deadlines that really are there only to manipulate the person on the other side of the screen. Versus if I were to get on this landing page and it's like, hey, watch this training video and see if this program is for you. Honest invitation. And I would have watched it. So that's also like how scarcity language shows up in tactics and in things like that. Like it's really pervasive. And when you start to be aware of it, you start to realize how widespread it is. It's also in things like, let me see. And it's also like, it's not to say like, I still have moments of negative self-talk as well. So it's also like when I hear like my friends, or even when I'm in meetings like I was yesterday, and this kind of like doubt language comes in, I really try hard to call that out, or call it forward, just to bring awareness to it, because again, awareness is the key to all shifts. Like once you're aware of things, you can change something, you can change them. You can making my portfolio. I don't know what that means. So it's just one of those things. And I think it's a responsibility as a creator, as somebody that's putting things out into the world. You can't control other people's negative self-talk. You can't control how other people perceive you. You can't control the emotional response that people have when you're putting out content, when you're putting out language. What you can control is the intention that you're putting out. You can control the language that you're using. You can control those aspects that, at least for you, invite you forward versus making people shrink down. When we talk about marketing and we talk about converting, which is people making a decision, to me, converting isn't just the yes, it's also the no. It's making it, the decision point is what a conversion is for me. So when you talk about converting, like people will respond usually for two different reasons. One is that they want to move away from pain, or they want to move towards pleasure. So, and it's not like there can't be, I am also very anti, like the whole good vibes only movement, or like love and light only, because I don't think that's effective and I don't think that's honest. I think that there's a lot of value in acknowledging the whole human. I think there's a lot of value in acknowledging, not just shadow, but there's a lot of value in acknowledging hurt. There's a lot of value in acknowledging where people are at, actually. And also still inviting them towards the pleasure, rather than making them feel so much pain that they have to convert. It's a shift. It's a different intention, and it's a different value. I love seeing like when there's all this like little bursts of hearts, they make me really happy. Let me know if this is landing and if you have any questions, because I tend to go on tangents that I really enjoy, but I don't like it. It's usually when I'm doing these classes, it's like on a Zoom call, so I'm able to see people's faces. And it's very new to me to just be talking to my own face. So please do let me know if this is landing in the commentary. So when it comes to practical ways that you can actually shift language, like we've talked about theory, we've talked about why, thank you for the thumbs up. We've talked about theory, we've talked about why it's important. We've talked about the science, or at least the studies, because I don't know the actual science. I'm not a scientist, I'm a marketer. About why it's important. And we also did the exercise where we felt in our bodies the difference of how different experiences land. Yay, Tia, give me the clappies. Thank you. So as and we also talked about how it's not our responsibility about like managing other people's expectations, but more about the intention and the intention and the values that we put forward. Like that is what is our responsibility as humans. So one invitation that I have as far as like practical ways, I love that line, I'm not a scientist, I'm a marketer. It's true. I'm curious like a scientist. I will test things like a scientist. I will have hypotheses and then create systems to either prove or disprove them and then adjust accordingly. Wait, Nadia, maybe I am a scientist. Hold on a second. At least I appreciate the scientific method. I can say that. So as far as like practical tips of how to shift your language. So now that we know that it's important and you're probably excited that there's different ways that you can speak your values forward and how you can speak through your marketing, is how you actually shift it. And now that you have the awareness, what I invite you to do is as you go throughout your day, you're going to be inundated with ads because that's just the reality of our life today. And I want you to just take a beat before scrolling and take a look at the copy. I want you to take a look at also the imagery and just start to feel in your body the emotions that come up. Does this make you feel good? Does it make you feel, does it not, I don't like the whole good or bad duality. Does it make you feel expansive? Does it make you constrict? Does it do a little bit of both? And I want you to take notice of what the ads and what the marketing that you're being shown, what kind of language that they're using. I think there's always so many great examples in our day-to-day life that we're not even aware of. Nadia has a really good example. So if you want examples of positive marketing, Nadia's fantastic at that. So go check her out once we're done with this live. And just start to notice and start to be aware of how they're using language, how things are phrased. And that's step one. Step two is looking at your own marketing. And again, if you're not aware, I do have an Instagram alignment free workshop coming up. I think it's next Friday. And I got the idea during this live to do a copy alignment free workshop. So if you're not part of my email list, I 100% invite you to sign up for it so that you can get notified for all that. The link to sign up for the Instagram alignments are already in my bio, so that you can do immediately. And those are free workshops. So now that you've noticed the things that are being advertised to you and marketed to you, now it's taking a look at your own marketing, taking a look at your own captions, taking a look at your own content that you're putting out, and start to pull apart the language that might be more constricting versus not. Now, I brought up earlier the example of that false deadline on the webinar for like a live training. I do also want to call forward that deadlines are not always manipulative. I'll say that again. Deadlines are not always manipulative. The reality is I have this live workshop this live free workshop next Friday. That's the Instagram alignment. And at some point, I'm going to have to close the list. That's not a false deadline. That's just the reality so that I can do what I need to do on my back end to prep the people that are going to show up and ensure that that everybody in that workshop gets the time that they need from me, and so that I can be of most service or of greatest service within that container. So that, like, deadlines aren't always scarcity mindset. Sometimes they're necessary and sometimes they're scarcity mindset. So I really want you to take a look at, and maybe you don't have an email list, maybe you don't have, your Instagram captioning, maybe you don't have, even take a look at your website, take a look at your bios, take a look at everywhere that you use language, which is everywhere. And even if you don't have any of those, start taking notice of how you're speaking to yourself. So much of what I talk about when it comes to marketing starts with you. Because how you view the world, how you take things in, your perspective is what gets shown. And that's also why whenever we do anything aligned marketing, we start with values first. What is it that you stand for? What won't you stand for? And that's where we do everything from. Like, that's the space, rather than like, oh, I have to sell this, I have to do this. Like, that's not a space that feels good and right, and it's not a space that's sustainable. So we start with values. We always start with values. So homework. I love to give homework, even though I hated homework. Maybe let's not call it homework, though. Let's call it something else. Let me just invite you to investigate. I'm going to invite you to investigate. So I'm inviting you to investigate the advertising and marketing that comes your way, to take notice of if it makes you feel expansive or contracted. Take note of the language that's used. And then I'm inviting you to take a look at your own content and see if it's, again, is it using expansive language or is it using contracting language? Nadia says she loves it. Thanks, Nadia. Ooh, that 45 minutes went by real quick. I love it when I get on these rants. I'm really passionate about language. It's something that really fascinates me. And even actually, just an extra little bonus tip, language is so important that it can literally shift the emotional state that you're in. So, hot tip, if you ever catch yourself feeling angry and pissed off and just enraged, which I know is happening a lot for people right now, I want you to first of all name it. So name that emotion. And then what I want you to do is change that word. So if you're feeling, actually, I'll give you a concrete example. My puppy is still she's super barky with other dogs on walks. She's gotten so much better, and she's still super barky. And this morning on my walk, I was listening to a talk on my headphones, and I was walking my dog, Fiona, and there was another dog that came up and was just walking side by side. So I was trying to listen to my talk and trying to control her from stopping her from barking, and trying to stop her before the point where she barked. And I was just getting frustrated, right? And I was honestly I was annoyed. There's very rarely that I get angry anymore. But I was really feeling frustrated. I wanted to control the dog. I didn't want her to bark. I didn't want to feel embarrassment that my dog is being this loud little weenie. She's even cute when she's a loud weenie though. And I was in this state of frustration. And as soon as I noticed it, I took a beat. And what was beautiful is as soon as I took a beat and I took out my headphone, the person that was walking their dog asked me, oh, can they say hi? So instead of having a barky dog and me being frustrated, as soon as I gave myself a little bit of space to just observe that emotion, there was an invitation for something positive, which was a puppy interaction, which was adorable. And once Fiona gets to say hi, she's quiet. And that was it. So there's the invitation to shift the language around it. And also just sometimes the fact of giving yourself a little bit of space of noticing what that emotion is will invite something different into your experience. So there was somebody else to do that. But, if you're finding yourself by yourself and pent up and first of all, lean into it, feel where it is in your body and then choose a different word. So curiosity is one that I really love. It's one that I use really often. Maybe it's because I'm a Sagittarius and I'm curious about everything. Or maybe it's because, I don't know, let's not psychoanalyze me right now. But, so if instead of being angry, you got curious, how would that shift in your body? We did the exercise earlier today where it's we felt that, deadline in our system, and then we felt that inspiration. So how does anger feel in your body versus curiosity? How does that shift how it moves in your body? So that's the alternative. That's just a great exercise to do, period. And if you don't have content already put together, that's a great place to start. So we're now 50 minutes in. I have about 10 minutes before Instagram kicks me off at the end of the hour. If there are any questions, feel free to let me know. If not, a little bit of housekeeping. If you made it this far, I adore you and thank you for sticking with me. And I love you. This will be saved to my IGTV. When you see it pop up on your IG, on your feed, please do comment, and share it. I did a huge cleaning out of my followers list lately or recently. I think it was about a month or two ago. And so I got dinged for it in the algorithm. So liking and commenting makes a huge difference in getting my content to the eyes and ears of people who are ready to hear it. I love you too, Tia. Nadia says, I love listening to your perspective. Thanks for coming, Nadia. Thank you. So like, comment, and share. I'm just pumping out free offerings lately because I want to be of service. And also, I feel like there's a lot of people who need it right now, especially, I'm not actually even gonna, there's just a lot of people who need it right now. So if there's more, if you want more, if you want to be able to like talk back to me and like have a conversation, which is how I operate better as well, I also really invite you to join me for like either the free workshops. I also have a Aligned Marketing 101 course that's available, that's already online. I'm working on 2 different masterminds, which I'm super excited about. All of this to say, stay in contact. Check out the links in my bio. There's free offerings there for Aligned, for Instagram alignment, and I was inspired by this little chat to do one on copy alignment as well. So we'll take a look, and those are workshops. So those are spaces where we'll be. It's a smaller group. I like to keep it small. It's a free offering because, again, I'm just an amazing person. And basically what we do is that we'll talk a little bit about strategy and about concept, but then we'll actually workshop. We'll actually take a look at people's accounts and workshop how we can make actual shifts. And same thing for the copy. We'll do a similar thing where we'll talk concept, and then we'll be looking at people's copy and shifting it to the more aligned marketing and aligned language. So check all those out. All the links are in my bio. If there's gonna be, I'm in creation mode right now. I'm in flow and learning and just this mode, which is super fun. So also, if you're not on my email list, I invite you to stay on there. That's where I'll be announcing things first. And yeah, I love doing these. So thank you everybody who joined. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your time and sharing your space with me and your attention with me. It's always appreciated, and I am very grateful for you. This will be saved, so if you're just signing in, Danny Garber, I see you. You can check it out on my IGTV. All right, y'all. It's officially 12:22 over here. Thank you again. And I will see you either on the interwebs or via the Zooms or via the classes. Yeah. Love you. Bye.